Okay. Welcome everybody to the April Housing Committee meeting. Any additions or changes to the agenda today? Perfect. Shared housing classes update. I have tried as much as I think I'm going to contact the person who had reached out to us about the classes. They're not responding. They haven't answered their phone or returned any phone calls. That being said, our friend Sue Rand has picked up what, 25 posters at this point? 20
have been distributed.
Thank you so much. She picked up 20 of those posters that I put together for the shared housing classes and has been hanging them up all around the valley for us. So hopefully we'll start to see some return on that. Any questions on shared housing at this point?
Just Perfect. To let you know, I was going to talk to the men's group May 19, but I'm actually going to be away out of town now. So I spoke to the gentleman. I can't come up with his name right off the top of my head, but we moved it into, I think it's June 9th.
Okay.
So I'll talk to the men's group then.
Okay. So thank you, Sue, for taking care of all that for us. Okay, I went to see Rotary this morning and hammered through all of the points that we had put together at our previous meeting. There were some shocked faces when I mentioned the idea that a short-term rental registration is on the horizon. Some more shocked faces when as I mentioned the potential of us looking at building our own housing trust. But I think overall the conversation went really well. There was one gentleman who kind of raised his hand and said, a lot of this seems like Band-Aids. And I was like, correct. On a budget of precisely $0, that's kind of what we're able to do at this point is try to get that low-hanging fruit in terms of things that don't cost us any money or very little money, which I think, once I explained that when we do finally have our giant bag full of money and can do as we please with it, obviously we can make a lot of these housing issues go away, but until that happens, we're going to have a hard time making a lot of these big sweeping changes. So I think they understood that. I told them, it wouldn't be a Rotary meeting if I didn't ask them to join something. So I asked if anybody was interested in coming to join our committee. I was asked about 16 times if I wanted to join Rotary. But overall, it was a positive discussion, I think. And, it was good to get some of the information out there. I think the more we can be doing things like that, the better. I mean, most of the people in that room didn't even know what the Bytown Economic Development Committee was, never mind the fact that there are subcommittees of the main committee. So, like I said, just getting that information out there and talking about it. I gave my card out to a few people who had lots and lots of questions because we ran out of time. And I said, by all means, swing into my office or call. I'm happy to talk housing with you and any ideas you might have. So if anybody joins us, great. If not, it was still good to get the information out there. Okay. Any questions on my chat with Rotary? I just lost my pen. No? Okay.
Eric, you didn't get any recruits?
No, but I did talk to, and I have her name written down, one lady who owns 20 apartments, she said, between Dover and Wilmington. So she was interested in, what was that, Meg?
Would it be Stephanie Pooley?
Yes. Yes, thank you. And, other people who had, interest and questions and talking about things like shared housing and, what exactly it means to have an accessory dwelling unit and things like that. So I did hand my card out to quite a few people and said, let's chat about it, because I'm happy to, if it means we get some housing out of it, I'm happy to spend a few minutes talking with you. So that's that.
Great.
Any other questions on the Rotary chat? We are gonna be, we're cranking through it, huh? Okay. So Sue, 2 meetings ago, Sue Rand 2 meetings ago had told us that she would take some time to pull together some information on the legislation and legality of starting a housing trust. I did send that out to everybody. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it. Sue, was there any main points of what you had read through there that you wanted to kind of share with the group, or?
No, there really wasn't. I mean, there's a lot of information there, but I think a lot of it is for more professionals than myself. So, and developers when they're ready to do something. So I just gathered what I thought might be helpful, and I leave it up to the rest of you.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions on anything they read there? Okay.
I wonder if somebody in the group here would like to try to draft something for us to start a housing trust. I think that's our next step, and we do have to figure out, and then maybe another person can look into, you know, potentially how we're going to fund this.
Gretchen, do you have any, I've worked on different things with the Brattleboro Housing Trust now, of course, Wyndham Windsor, they grew, over the years. But do you have any insight into how they actually got started? I mean, it's hard to picture that they were quite small and didn't have much money at the beginning, yet they've always had staff. As far as I know, it hasn't been a volunteer group. And I'm just curious if before we start, what to me, drafting something means we think we know what we're getting into. Would it make sense to find out and thank you, Sue, for the information you got, which I agree, I skimmed quickly and went, oh gosh, this seems, beyond what I'm understanding. Would it make sense to talk to somebody at Wyndham Windsor Housing and see how they got going? I mean, they have an amazing staff that taps into every possible resource that is, local, well, not local, state and federal. But I don't have a good idea about whether that the term is even appropriate for what we're trying to do, if what we're trying to do is create more housing. Because they didn't start out creating housing, they started out rehabbing housing.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, like, I don't picture us ever owning property. I see this housing trust fund as an opportunity to help, because as we know, Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust is not going to come save us. However, and I'm not so sure that they would even come and, like, I don't know, maybe they would tell us how they started, but because they're going to feel competitive, because they do have a property here in Wilmington. And so, I mean, I'm not sure if they would or not. And we really wouldn't be competing with them because we're really not going to own property like they do. So my intention is that we have, and I'm not talking millions of dollars that would come into this. I'm thinking more small, like helping a developer get to that next step, a private developer getting to that next step to be able to actually create some housing. So either by assisting them with technical assistance, helping them, purchase property, to do that, those kind of things. I don't ever picture this committee ever really owning property.
So that the housing trust term, what does that mean to you, I guess would be my question. And I'm sorry I missed earlier, probably a year's worth of meetings.
No,
where this was
no,
discussed.
it's okay. These are
Catching
really
up.
good questions for us to really think about. I mean, and this is me personally, maybe the, committee has different ideas at this point, but when I first brought this up, I envisioned, I'm sorry, Meg, what was your question again?
What is the housing trust? What do you mean by a housing trust?
So it would be a fund
Okay.
that could, and so a private developer could apply to us for, $10,000 or something like that to help develop plans for a site, or they have a gap in, financing, and we could give them, maybe start a revolving loan fund for them to access. I don't know, there's many different ways that we could probably go with this.
Wilmington has some sort of loan fund, right? I don't know that Dover does or not, but all I'm trying to picture is, are we helping, or are we setting up another entity that developers might not actually need or use? What they need is the ability to borrow money and build something that people will buy. And
Mhm.
of course, what Wyndham Windsor does is they put a lifetime or perpetual easement on things, so that ensures a future affordability. And it's really complicated. And when you use housing trust, that's what I'm thinking of. But you're really talking about a way to help individual developers get something started in Wilmington and Dover that doesn't already exist.
Or rehabbing something that does
Rehab.
exist.
Yeah, right.
And you could provide, a certain amount of funding based on the percentage of the units or the number of units that will be affordable. If they are going to designate a certain number affordable, you could somehow tie it to that. Then they get, a certain amount of money.
I think Wilmington looked at something probably like, when was the last boom? There was some boom where people got excited, and the town government, I should say, and people about charging development fees, add-ons to development. We're sort of talking about the opposite of that.
Yeah.
It was never implemented because everyone went, what? What are you doing? We need more housing. So we're talking about the
in a lot of
opposite
places
that.
they do that.
Yeah.
An impact fee.
Impact. Thank you. Yeah, you're right, Sue. Yeah. So, and we don't have any models for what you have been talking about, correct?
Well,
Correct.
the only one I had seen, that one in Waitsfield, but I didn't look at it too closely, or I didn't ever talk to anybody about, what they had done up there, and like the Mad River Valley.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there is some, from what I understand, from from their website, there's some funding available, and there's technical assistance as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had actually reached out to us because, Gretchen, you remember that meeting? Because I think that they were planning on those funds coming in and didn't know how to effectively spend them.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Which is a great problem to have.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but I do remember I'm glad that they were able to nail that down and do something like that. And, I think the idea behind this, right, is, like when I was talking to the Rotary this morning, they're like, oh, well, why don't you just subsidize rentals? And I was like, oh, yeah, like, let me grab my subsidy money and I'll just go do that. You know, it's all a really great idea, but that's like the type of thing that we're talking about, where we're going to need money to do these things, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, being there as a resource for the developers, or possibly looking at some type of, you know, subsidy program that might effectively open up more units, or convert them from short-term rental to long-term rental.
Right.
You know, I don't think anything is set in stone as far as like what we would do with the money once we got it. We need to start laying the groundwork so that when we do figure out how to get the money in there, that we have a solid plan on how we can most effectively use it. So like, you know, Gretchen talking about, you know, having that resource there for the developers, I think would be very helpful.
Is this something where we need some attorney's advice, where maybe the attorneys for Wilmington, Dover could tell us what it is we want to set up and assist with that? Because they're the ones that can interpret these documents that I downloaded, I presume.
Well, eventually you would definitely.
Yeah,
need
yeah.
them, but I'm not sure about if right
Now.
away,
Right.
unless you have someone who's specifically, you know, focused on that kind of work.
Right. No, that was my thought as well, Sue, is, you know, to both Sue's was that, you know, let's maybe put something together that we feel comfortable with, and then, you know, at that point, maybe we have legal take a look at it. And I don't think it would probably just, I mean, I think if we put something together and put it in front of a lawyer, that he's going to give us the same answers in Dover as we would get probably down in Wilmington as well.
Yeah.
So I think we can kind of cross, or, you know, get two birds with one stone there, but it's going to be that initial drafting of, you know, kind of the framework for this thing. That's what we're talking about,
Yeah.
right? And since Heidi is late, she
Sorry.
automatically volunteered to do it.
Great.
But seriously though, does anybody want to take a crack? I honestly, like, I can't put it on my plate because I keep taking little things, and I'm getting to the point now where I realize, like, I got to back off just a tiny bit to make sure that I'm covering everything I've already promised to do.
You know, I think Sue had a link here to a housing, a toolbox for housing trust funds.
Yep.
And that might be a really great place to start. I noticed that goes to a Massachusetts one. And I thought VHCB might have had one. I was just perusing here and I can't seem to find that page. So there's a National Housing Trust Fund handbook, HUD section. I don't know. This might be a little bit more.
I think, I can't tell you for sure, but I think I might have seen that, but it was dated like around 2000s or 1990s. And so I printed it. So I didn't use that one because I thought, it's going to be out of date.
Yeah.
And that's why I used the Massachusetts one.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think that would be a really good step to start with.
Can hear Eric on the phone. I'm curious.
Hi, sorry. What did I miss? I apologize.
There's a toolbox on the information.
Oh, yep, on the list.
gathered.
Yeah, I see that right here.
It's Massachusetts versus a national one, which I think was available, but it was dated, I believe, in the 90s. So
Oh.
I didn't use that link because I thought the Massachusetts one might be more relevant, being that it's more recent.
Okay.
And probably a lot of that information is applicable, even if not like specific, you know, statutory requirements and things wouldn't be, obviously, but.
Yeah, I don't feel capable of putting that together myself, so I'm sorry that I'm I can't volunteer.
I don't know how we're gonna find anybody here who's gonna, this is a big project and a big lift. And, you know, most of us already have our real jobs. And I mean, this is a big ask for anybody to try to do this. I don't know
Yeah.
how we move to that level realistically. No,
Do
I'm
you
not asking
think-
you, Eric, not at all.
No, I know. I just like,
It's
Because-
just, be practical about this.
right.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Do you think creating a subcommittee and trying to pull other people in for this specific thing would be helpful? Or do you feel like this is work that, you know, this committee really has to do?
My concern, right, is that if we don't have, like, already have somebody on the committee that we get, that like, we're gonna go find somebody else who's not already invested in the committee to take over the work, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Yes.
feel like it's what Vicky already, indicated. It's a big lift. I don't know that it's a volunteer job. And if it is, I think we'd probably want to define exactly what we are looking for. Are we looking for something that gets money from each town? Are we looking for each town to have control of this? I mean, to me, there's a lot of unknowns that, I'd hate to put off on somebody else if I don't have a clear vision of what it is we're looking for. And maybe that's just me, but I do think it's a lot easier when you have somebody that goes, I'd like to buy that dilapidated building, and could you think the town could loan me some money and I'll pay them back later? That's the ideal, instead
Right.
of creating a whole new structure. But we don't have anybody popping up to buy that dilapidated building. So working with what we've got, I think I can't volunteer. I don't know how to structure, what we're talking about at this point. It just seems a little amorphous to me still. And I'd hate to put that on somebody else and try to explain to them, what kind of trust are we talking about?
So do you think then if we, like, the next step for us, instead of trying to write this thing out and actually form it, is to kind of answer some more of those questions? I mean, that is a great point you bring up. Like, we haven't really had the discussion about how that works from town to town. I know that we are by town housing, but
Right.
if, Dover and Wilmington are both putting in money at some point, some point down the road, or if, however this is working out, and then it
Right.
turns out that most of the development projects happen in Wilmington, as
Right.
opposed to Dover, or vice versa, like, what does that look like when we're supposed to be sharing those funds? And we can't force,
Right.
like, well, the last developer built down in Wilmington, so now you have to build up here. Like, it doesn't really work like that. So I think, I'm trying to think of like what the next step forward for us here is. And I know what it is, I just don't necessarily know how to attain it. Because go ahead.
Sorry, Eric. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
How did this start? Could I ask that? What was the kernel of the idea, other than creating housing?
It was in the Bytown Economic Development Committee meeting that we we discussed as housing as a huge issue,
Right.
and we need to figure out what to do. And so we created a subcommittee to work on housing, hence the housing analysis came out of that.
The Camoin analysis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah.
And we have been working, through those strategies that they had outlined in that study. A
So
lot
did-
of them, some of them were, unrealistic, and
Mhm.
others we've been, trying to work through. But working through committee is, as like, nothing against any of you. It's just the timing of
Yeah.
everything is like, like it moves really slowly. And like, and of course we did not meet during the pandemic,
Right.
because the paid staff here both had their hands full with many other things.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, so where do we go from here? Like, I'm not sure. Like,
Did
Um,
did Camoin offer some suggestion about a housing trust? I mean, I did read the report. I went to the meetings, but I don't recall.
I don't think that they did put a housing trust in there.
Yeah.
They were suggesting that we work with Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust.
Mhm.
So we did try to do that on multiple occasions, and have
Right.
ended up empty-handed. And so, okay, what's the next thing that we can do? And, like, I went to the housing forum that they had last fall, and there was, I cannot remember the town. So maybe
The
you
Bennington
might,
one?
yeah, that started the house.
How,
Wasn't it, it was
oh.
Pownell, or
Pownell, yeah, I think.
I think it was
That's,
Pownell that started
yeah,
a housing trust. St. Albans, he was there. The
Oh, Dominic.
yeah, Dominic was there, and he spoke about how they use their housing trust fund. So it's, I mean, that's where this came out of. And, maybe this is not what the committee really wants to do. And we just need to let it go and focus on those other ideas in there. I mean, one of the strong ones was to, really take the short-term rental people and, try to and get regulation around that.
I was wondering if that's where we should go, and, that would be by town. If there was a rental registration, money would be coming in that we'd have to have in some sort of pool, and that would have to be determined. Should we perhaps think about working on that? And then let some money come in and figure out, and then we'll be figuring out what to do with it, just like Mad River, I guess.
Yeah, and
So,
when those fees are brought in, or registration is brought in, you also have to look at housing communities like Kingswood. I know that they charge extra if you're going to use your place as a VRBO, for example.
Right.
And what each HOA has to pay out and what that looks like for registration for everybody. It's going to be a lot to unpack and a lot of information to gather from a lot of the, like the condo associations or townhouse associations. But yeah, it sounds like that'd be the correct way to go and start looking at it that route.
So I was going to ask Eric at Rotary this morning, what kind of questions did they have? Because when you said that we were potentially looking at a rental registration situation for short-term rentals, because there is going to be huge pushback.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
so, I mean, we need to really understand what we're going to need to do to not only sell it to the select boards, but to sell it to the community at large.
Right. I was able to, so when the most like aggressive question asked back towards me was, do you really think that this is going to bring that this would help to bring long-term rental housing back onto, the market? And I said, maybe not. I said, but that's literally only part of the reason that we would be looking into this registration system, right? Like we're looking for accountability from our Airbnb owners. We're looking for, you know, just
Safety.
We're looking for, you know, the potential for some revenue to then turn and put into a long-term housing type of solution. So, you know, I think once I explained that it wasn't like, oh, we're going to do this and it's going to make all these houses come back on the market, like, or they understood what it was that I was talking about. So I don't think they weren't, once we talked it through a little bit, they weren't quite as concerned as I expected them to be, you know, once they had all the information, which was nice, you know, because I was kind of expecting like the torches and pitchforks, because that's, you know, like it's something that's been it's been happening without any registration to this point. So anytime you introduce a new rule or regulation or registration, like obviously I have pretty strong opinions about it. So I actually think it went over pretty well with the group.
I have a question though. I mean, who would be the enforcer on this? Would this be like the town zoning administrators who would handle this?
Ooh. No, so that's kind of the beauty, right? Is like the company, and I'm not necessarily saying we have to go with the company we've been talking with, because there's other ones who do it, but the company Granicus, and we're going to get into this in our item after the website here, but they actually handle all of this. They handle all of the registrations. They're the ones who are constantly combing Airbnb, our VRBO, and any other short-term rental site to make sure that those houses that are being advertised and the addresses advertised are registered through Granicus. All complaints are filed through Granicus. All complaint letters and warnings are sent through Granicus. You know, this is not something that the town, you know, short of paying them the fee for each registration, this is not something that, you know, myself, Gretchen, or either zoning administrator would be monitoring. It's literally all taken care of through that registration.
But the money would go, the registration would go back to the town after we paid Granicus probably their commission.
Correct. So, and why don't we do, all right, so here's what we're going to do, because we're already in the middle of it. As long as everybody's okay with it, we'll just move this short-term rental registration conversation up here, because we're kind of already in the middle of it, right? And then we'll hop on to the website for the last 15. So basically they charge, you know, they charge the Airbnb owner. Their recommendation was that you charge the average of a one-night stay in your town would be the registration fee. So last I had looked, I believe Dover was around $355 a night was the average stay in an Airbnb. Okay. So the cost to register each one of those Airbnbs with Granicus was around $85. Okay, so you take that $355, they get their $85 cut out of it. Once all those registrations are collected, then they're cutting a check back to the town and saying, okay, here's your Airbnb registration money on top of our costs. Okay, so it's not, the way they explained it, it's not even the situation where we'd be paying up front for those registrations. They would be going out and getting those registration fees.
Now, is this a one-time registration or an annual registration, or how does that work?
The recommendation was for an annual registration.
And question is, what qualifies as a short-term rental? Up to a month at a time, up to less than 3 months? What does Granicus consider a short-term rental?
It was one of our realtors at the Rotary meeting this morning told me the state of Vermont classifies short-term as anything less than 30 days.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So basically, yeah, we you know, we give the permission to Granicus to, okay, move forward with this. They start combing those websites for any short-term rental. It was Airbnb, VRBO, and there was a couple HomeAway. There was a couple other ones that they follow as well. But basically any address in East or West Dover or Wilmington that falls, you know, within our map and is on one of those websites, they would be notified that they would need to register their business to continue. The other thing that this helps us with is, well, there's a couple of things that it helps us with, right? Number one, it gives us some justification for our inns and lodges to say, look, we are trying to level this playing field for you. We understand that you go through this rigorous, health and fire and safety inspections, at least yearly. There are additional fees that you have to have paid in order to run your establishment that an Airbnb is not responsible for. They don't need to have the fire marshal come down and check out their Airbnb the same way an inn or a lodge does every year. They don't have to have, health and safety checks in their Airbnbs the same way a hotel does. So I think while it's not completely leveling the playing field, I think it does help to level it a little bit to say, well, we're making them pony up, belly up to the table, the bar too. Another thing that it does for us is that it helps with accountability as far as the property owners go, right? So right now, if a complaint is filed against an Airbnb, it goes, potentially to the police station, and then from there, probably nowhere at this point, right? Unless you're talking like severe repeat offenses, there's not, we're not tallying infractions here in Dover or Wilmington. Okay. One of the things that Granicus does is it keeps track of any of those complaints that are filed against those properties and has the ability to say, with 3 infractions, we can actually remove your property from Airbnb for up to 6 months or 3 months, or, depending on what the infraction was. But basically it holds those property owners accountable for the actions of their visitors. So if they say, I only want 4 people in my house, and they get an infraction because there's 15 people there on a weekend, that goes into their file. If there's multiple noise complaints, that goes into their file. And at that point, that's when Granicus can say, look, you're in danger. They get a warning letter from Granicus basically saying, like, you're in danger of losing your ability to advertise your property on these short-term rental sites. They also comb, I don't think it was every week. I can't remember how often they said they comb the sites, but they go back very frequently to check so that if they send a letter to somebody and say, hey, you need to register your business or you're going to be removed from Airbnb, and somebody says, oh, never mind, I pulled it. I took it down. And then like a week later, they put it back up thinking like, oh, I don't have to register if I just stick it back up there. They'll reach out to them again and say, look, like, you can't do that. Like, so they check back often. But I mean, you're talking, I think the last time I had done the math, if we went even, I think it was even $250 or maybe even $300 times the 400 and something Airbnbs in Westover alone. I know it's not the largest pool of money in the world, but it's still over $100,000 a year that we could be pulling in and then turning around and using for some of these long-term housing initiatives. The conversation is not going to be comfortable. The fact that I'm even bringing it up right now probably puts a target on my back. I completely understand that, but it is something that needs to be addressed, okay, for all of the reasons that I've been talking about with you guys. Gretchen and I did receive an email from Kyle at Granicus, who's our contact that we've been working there, and he was like, look, where do we think we are with this? And Gretchen replied to him and said, we got to get this in front of the select boards and see what the appetite is on this before we move any further forward with this. So what I wanted to do was to have a discussion, and I know like we'll a couple of minutes here. How does everybody feel about Gretchen and I approaching the select boards to at least gauge the interest in us researching this type of registration?
I think we should do it.
Okay.
I have a lot more questions about it that we need to have information available that I would ask being on the select board.
Yeah.
What happens if they don't comply and don't register? Is it a mutual relationship between these rental companies and Granicus that they agree? Who does the safety checks? How do we know that that is correct, being enforced properly? All those things are lots of questions that we need to know that, for the fee, we are going to get, we're going to know there's enough fire extinguishers or there are enough exits or whatever there are to make sure that it's a safe property. And, somebody who just doesn't pay, I don't know about that relationship between the platforms and Granicus. So those are
Yeah.
some of the questions just come to mind really quickly for me.
Yep.
Right, for me too, and Eric, I don't object to exploring it with both select boards. I'm not sure how it would work, sort of along Vicky's line of questioning, if, since neither town requires building inspections or offers certificates of occupancy,
Mhm.
doesn't do an inspection process, just issues a zoning permit for
Yep.
people who are building. You know, who's taking on the responsibility for assuring safety? Right now, it's the state fire marshal or deputy fire marshals that
Correct.
do that. They'll come in and inspect anything, you know, we ask them to, as long as they get their $125. But, you know, what are we suggesting the towns pick up in terms of financial costs as part of this in
Mhm.
return for some revenue? Would
Right.
be kind of one way to look at it too.
So how does everybody feel if I was able, I think they've joined us once before, but maybe, you know, we've been having this conversation for such a long time, and there are so many questions specific to the type of program they're running. Maybe before we put this, you know, in front of potentially the select boards to even discuss, let's see if maybe, Gretchen, do you think we could pull Kyle or someone from Granicus into maybe our next housing meeting to kind of give us the brief overview again and answer some of these questions? Is that something you want to do? Or, you know, sorry, I know I've been talking a lot here and I can't read your expression, so I don't know if, oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I think that sounds fine
Okay.
to ask Kyle to come back, you know, and answer some of these questions.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we'll create some sort of a page to provide to the select board prior to meeting with them. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think.
Yeah, and I'm also concerned about liability. So if we have a registration system and something goes wrong, is the town then in a situation where they could be liable for some of this? Right now, we are not, but we potentially, by collecting revenue,
Right.
we potentially might be. So that's an important piece too.
Yeah. Gretchen, do you think that there's anyone from your select board who might want to sit in on that next housing meeting? Just because, you know, like Vicky is our liaison, she sits on our select board and also sits in this housing committee. If she's there to get some of those questions answered, she may be able to express that to the board. So it maybe we'll try to get that set up. And then if you want to invite anybody from the Wilmington board just to sit and listen, that might be helpful on that end as well.
Good idea.
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, so I will try to get Kyle set up for next meeting, and if he can't make it, then we'll have one of his partners from Granicus join us, okay?
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions on that in the meantime, like, let's talk about it, right? Because there's plenty of questions, there's lots of things to talk about surrounding it, so I just want to make sure that everybody's comfortable and looking in the same direction, okay?
Yeah.
So that will
and
be May 11th is our next meeting.
Yep.
we should also make sure we have a little profile sheet from Granicus about what other communities they operate in, and how long they've been doing this kind of thing. I think all that kind of background it doesn't have to be big, just, you know, that kind of information, where they're operating in Vermont, it would be really useful just to have that. It brings credibility.
Yep, absolutely.
And just for the future, I mean, the state is interested in the same thing. So, you know, how does that work in down the road?
That's a great question. One of the things that came up in a side conversation that I was having with someone after Rotary this morning was, it seems like when the town starts talking about, or when the state starts talking about what it is they want to do, they go so heavy and get so much pushback that they scare themselves to tabling the conversation again, right? Like, oh my God, what did we do? We started a thing and then they table it again. I don't even think short-term, I think they've tabled it again for this session, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
so.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it didn't, nothing passed.
Right.
Right. So
I just saw
eventually
that.
the state may do something, but you know, like at this point, I don't have a ton of faith in them actually getting anything accomplished on this front.
I think Vermont Business Magazine just this week had an article in there about Burlington doing this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're trying. Yeah.
Mm.
It's I don't want to sit here and tell everybody that the whole process is going to be sunshine and rainbows and everybody's going to be super happy about it, because they're really not, right? But like,
Has Burlington said what they would do with the money, where they'd put it?
I think Burlington was talking about beyond registration, that they were only gonna allow short-term rentals and owner-occupied units and some things like that, that
Right.
Yeah,
people were
Yeah.
having problems with.
right.
okay, we will continue the conversation, and like I said, I'll try to pull Kyle in for next meeting, and you know, in the meantime, we'll try to keep anybody from running us off the roads for even bringing it. So on that note, let's take a look. Last meeting, I said, hey, I'll take a stab at putting together a website for housing. And I did. So can everybody see our screen? Okay,
Mhm.
perfect. So keep in mind, this is very rough because I didn't want to get too super crazy. I didn't want to get too super crazy, you know, with everything until I got kind of a thumbs up and from the group. But here's your homepage, some basic information about Bytown Housing Committee. These are some quick links down here, links at the bottom to the Town of Dover Wilmington Chamber and our Facebook page. Links to Facebook page up here as well. Let's see.
That's really good.
Yeah,
Thank
like
you.
It's excellent.
yeah.
Nice job.
Thank you so much. Moving along, more information on the Bytown Housing, and then down below here, anyone who has missed all of our wonderful housing conversations since last October when we started recording them can actually come here, look at the agenda of the things that we had planned on talking about, and check in on those meetings, okay? So that's that page. There is a page for our housing analysis and master plan so that anybody who has questions on that can see it as well. Moving right along, there is a drop down, and Gretchen had some comments about maybe what to do with these links. So we'll work through that and find something that you know, works and fits well. Basically, this page would allow a landlord to say, look, I have this rental, here's my contact information and basic property information, and then allow us to take that information and post it there. It does say down below here that they would be responsible for letting us know when that, you know, vacancy was filled so that we can pull it off the website. This is not a heavy lift. We do the same thing on the Discover Dover website with open commercial spaces. And it really has not been a big deal to have people let us know what's available and then contact us as soon as it's filled to pull it down. There isn't really like a free, I do apologize. I don't know how to send them to voicemail either. There's not really like a free service for us to use to do this. So this is the most cost-effective way to kind of accomplish having those listings posted. Obviously would have a lot to do in terms of collecting resources. I just wanted to kind of grab a few to let you guys know, like, okay, this is the kind of information that we can be sharing on these pages here. There's a page specific to landlord resources as well, which I think Gretchen had recommended to me, like, hey, let's not just focus on the people looking to rent or looking for housing. Let's also focus on, you know, the landlords as well. So we'll have all the landlord information here. There's a lot of really great stuff from ACCD and some other housing associations in Vermont for the landlords. And then down here, we have the webinars and education, which brings us into the place where we can say, okay, look, we have these free shared housing classes coming up. And also here's the multifamily home buyer course recordings from the BDCC and SEVIDS and the USDA not long ago. So as these things come or have been recorded and are available, we can be sharing them from this page so people know, like, hey, this is where I go to kind of learn about housing. And then we have our contact page as well. You know, we'll update this. I had to create a Gmail account to get the website moving. So that's our Gmail account. But you know, we'll make sure that all this stuff is headed to the right place and all the SEO is lined up. I checked today. Wix likes to play the game where they're like, it's 50% off today only, right? So for the next 48 hours or so, I believe I'm going to stop sharing. We are in that, but I will send everybody the link here. We're in that 48-hour, like 50% off window, right? So if we were to register the site, and obviously probably not launch it until I had finalized everything within the next 48 hours, 1 year we're looking with a domain name, we'd be looking at $132 for the year. 2 years with the domain name were $220. And that's at 1 year, it would be $11 a month. At 2 years, it goes down to $8.50 a month. I think it's a great place for us to share information. Yeah. I'm totally on board with, you know, maybe doing the 1 year just to see if we have the engagement, you know, with the website that we're hoping for, and kind of see, you know, what that looks like over the first year. One of the things I will say is, like, now that the website's built, the way these things are set up, it's very drag and drop and super easy. Like you know, like a MySpace page pretty much. So what I will need from you guys is like information, right? Like if you hear about something, you just got to tell me and I'll get it up on the website. Or, you know, like I'll add, it takes me 2 seconds to add the video of the, you know, these recordings after the fact. But like the one thing if we're going to pay to do this, if we're going to have a website dedicated to housing and information here in the Valley, we need to make sure that that information stays current, and that, you know, we're using that website to the max of its ability, right? Like even what I have right there, even with the resources and things like, oh, we have all this information in one spot. Like there's really not even that much information yet. There's a ton of stuff that we can be sharing, and we can be driving everybody to this website. We can be sharing, you know, we backlink from the town sites, from the economic development site here in Dover, from the chamber site, Wilmington Works, anybody else who's willing to share that for us. And we just start posting our information here. Okay. There's the ability to expand to blogs. If anybody had, you know, things they wanted to write about, you know, for housing and things like that. You know, video integration, all of those things are very easy. Another recommendation that Gretchen had, and I 100% agree, I just haven't had time. And when I have had time, it's been a little gray outside, is to get some local shots, you know, for like the homepage and the banners and things like that, so that we're actually using shots of like actual rental properties here in the Valley. I think would be pretty awesome.
I think you've done a fabulous job, Eric.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Well, thank you all so much.
I would recommend that we go for 2 years, because it's going to take a little bit of time to actually get people into it. I mean, like I just had our room open up, so I'll put up an ad there for you. I'll get to the information right away. I don't know how Vicky feels about that, because, you know, rooms get advertised, rentals get advertised in her paper. You know, but she can also direct them to that housing thing, and, you know, let people advertise, you know, let people know it's available there. You know, so I would say, I think it's going to take more, I think you want to do more than a year anyway. So I would go for the 2-year payment.
Yeah, I don't think
we have the money. And do we have the money?
I believe so. Yeah. we have the money from Peoples because we spent some of it on the shared housing classes and a little bit on the mailers, but
I don't know what's left.
I
I think
can,
I think we were around 250 and I don't know if we're below that now or.
I don't know if Shannon usually keeps track of that funding for us, so I can, Shannon?
Mhm.
Oh, she's on the phone, sorry. Okay, so we'll continue to have that discussion. The other thing I forgot to mention is that the way that I built this site and because Wix makes everything incredibly easy, it is also very mobile friendly. So if somebody
Okay.
hops on this site from a tablet or a smartphone, they're gonna be able to use it just the same as they would on a PC or a Mac. There's actually some really cool animations with the text and the photos and things when you look at the site on mobile. So I just sent the link to everybody in the chat there, and I will send that link out as well. With the recording of this meeting and what.
Right, and we might want some way to publicize it.
Yeah.
What would be a way to publicize it? Again, maybe there's down the road as we get more with the short-term rental, maybe there would be a little article in the paper or something about this discussion with the select board and.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of articles in the paper about this discussion with the select board. I'm not worried about that. And
Talk about
when
the
that
housing
happens-
committee at the same time.
Yeah, when that happens, I will shamelessly plug our housing website. When we hit that point. Shannon, do we have any idea how much money is left in that coffer from Peoples?
I don't think any of it actually got expended.
Oh.
I think there was supposed to be a little bit of postage, but the way that it fell,
Okay.
I didn't see it in there. And I
What
had to
about
have,
the charges to Sharing Housing Inc.?
I don't know. I guess I'll have to look.
Okay.
She got
I'll ask
paid for that.
Marco.
Okay.
I'll check with Marco.
Okay.
And that was your phone call I just took, by the way.
Mr. Brooks.
Yes.
Okay. They're Consolidated will be hanging fiber over in East Dover, so get excited, folks. Okay. So I guess I wasn't as prepared as I thought I was in terms of how much money we have left. Gretchen, there's no money in your 1% for housing at this moment, correct?
No, but I could, I might be able to take it from my line item.
Your line item.
Yeah, so my economic development line item that. we
Oh,
have
okay.
In the regular.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking like what, like $110 maybe if we split it.
Mhm.
We have a line item for housing items. So if we did go over by any means from what we have from Peoples, my thought here is that I would just for what it's going to cost, like, let's just do it and get it up. We can, I mean, Vicky, as long as you're okay with it, we have $50,000 in a line item for housing. If I could use 220 of it, and if Gretchen can pull some money out of Wilmington, then great. If not, I think, it's really not a huge expenditure to have that up and live as long as you're on board. You're muted.
It's housing related. That line item has been sitting there for a bit too, hasn't
Yeah,
it? With the
yeah.
money in it?
No,
No.
No, I think we
Yeah.
added it this year.
we added it
Oh.
because we were like, we could be getting close to time to spending some money on housing. So that's where that came from.
Okay. Right.
But that'll still leave us $49,850 or $750 to do anything else we might need to do before July. So I think we're okay. Gretchen, just go ahead and look if it's something you can do by all means, but if not, not too worried about it. So I will go ahead and at least pay for the registration. I'll probably work with Gretchen and Shannon over the next couple of days just to kind of
Okay.
run the fine comb through it to make sure that, I haven't done a lot of proofing and things like that. And I would like to get some more photos and things like that. But if we can at least pay for it and lock in that price. Did you guys want to go for the 2 years?
Yes.
Around 220, I think. I think that's the way to go, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 years.
Okay, so we'll lock that
And
in.
if you could just let me know, Eric,
Yeah.
if we have enough money in there or
Yep.
not.
Yeah, will do.
If-
It's
if
really
we don't,
it's
I'll
really
just
not
need
gonna-
a invoice from you guys, so.
Yeah, it would not be a huge deal at all. So we will
Yeah.
like, we'll totally cross that bridge, but I'll just get it locked in for now and we'll book it to my, to my housing line item. Okay. I really appreciate your guys' feedback. When I send that link, just if you have a second, take a look through. Don't be afraid to hurt my feelings. Like if you see something that doesn't make sense or doesn't look right, like please share it with me. Just know again that I'm still in the process of collecting those resources. I just kind of grabbed what I could easily find. So like I said, I think Gretchen and I will kind of go through those lists and say like, oh, what about this? What about this? And get more of those assets added as we go along here. Okay. But I will send you that link when I send out the recording. So if there's anything you want to mention or comments or questions, by all means, reach out to me. Okay.
Great.
Great.
Awesome. So
Okay,
our
thank
next
you.
meeting will be May 11th. Oh boy, that's going to be a busy week. So Dover has pre-town meeting Tuesday night, housing marketing that morning, housing in the afternoon, and then trails Wednesday night. So that's going to be a lot of meetings for Dover, but it's okay. So we will plan on doing that. I'll see if I can pull Kyle in for the meeting. And if you have any agenda items you want to see on there, please get them to me by the week before. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day. We'll talk to
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
You too.